My role as an early interventionist is to provide support for children and families in the birth to 3 range. And if a doctor or a parent or really any child care provider has a concern about a child, they can call early intervention and make a referral. And then early intervention sends out a team of specialists, depending on what the child's needs are. And we would go out into the home and do an assessment to determine a child's eligibility for the program. And if the child is eligible, then we would create a plan for that child with goals and objectives to help them move on in their development. So that's kind of the first role as an early interventionist. And then I also provide, so I'm on the evaluator team, and then I also provide direct service for children and families with developmental and special needs. We also help with transition to school when a child turns 3. Our program ends the day before the 3rd birthday, so we help with advocacy and transitioning a child into their local school district. So kind of supporting parents, advocating with them, giving them their rights so that they know what they're kind of entitled to once that transition occurs, and then they end up in their local school district. So we kind of support them that way and educate them along the way. Governor Rauner's budget cuts will affect the population that we potentially could see the most positive change with. So what he's proposing right now is that the children kind of with the greatest possibility of making the most success, he wants to pull services from those children. So a child with around a 30 to even 50% delay are children with more developmental concerns. So those are the children that we, with enough support early on and getting them into preschool and things like that, often they're not going to need support afterwards. 50% or greater, a lot of times those children might have a diagnosis of some sort, a genetic, something genetic going on, a syndrome of some sort, and they, potentially will need support long term. What he's proposing is to pull those services away from the children that we feel would have the greatest, chance at success. So eliminating funding for that would be extremely detrimental to the program and the children and families that we serve. These cuts would impact children with, again, this 30 to 50% delay. So it's children more with developmental concerns, so it might be speech delays, maybe motor delays, developmental delays, but again, with support from our program and with support from, with that transition to preschool that we assist with, we're hoping that they won't need support later on. So these are little guys with more of a developmental concern as opposed to more of a diagnosis. So, just a little guy I'm thinking of now, he is very unintelligible with his speech. His family is wonderful. They are really concerned about him. They just did a medical diagnostic, which is the service available through early intervention if the team kind of feels like we want a developmental pediatrician and his or her team to take a look at the child and see if there's something else that may be impacting the child's development. Obviously, we're not doctors, we're clinicians that have our opinion. So he just did a diagnostic to kind of see if there is something kind of impacting development. He's falling in that 30 to 40-ish% delay, and they weren't able to come up with anything aside from developmental delay. So again, the family was happy that they kind of ruled out autism and they ruled out, anything else more significant, but yet parents can barely understand him, grandparents don't understand him, aunts, uncles, neighbors. He's really unintelligible. He's getting frustrated with his speech and communication. Cognitively he understands. His cognitive skills are all average to above average. It's just this communication piece. So he's a little guy that's kind of falling in that range. But without this support, the mom said she's very aware of all that's going on with, the funding and things like that. And she, was saying she doesn't know what she would do without this program because of the support that they're given and, helping him to get into preschool when he turns 3 this fall. This program helps the state save money because putting money in to children at this age will potentially avoid these children needing special ed support at, preschool and kindergarten level. So some of our children enter into what we call a blended program, which is, some children who are completely typically developing with no concerns, and then there might be 5, 6, 7, 8 children with an IEP, so children with special needs, and they kind of want to blend all these little guys, so there's some peer models, and there's appropriate social interaction and things like that. Putting the funding in at this point we're seeing that these little ones that are getting the support now, they're not going to need, all this therapy at a later age. I think the other thing is that if this program is cut and funding is cut, these problems aren't going to go away. So we're here to educate parents on, helping their child. We have children that were coming into these homes and parents don't even know that their child might be on the autism spectrum, or they don't know that there could be something else impacting development, and we're here to kind of educate them and walk them through that. I've gone to medical diagnostics with families to kind of support them through that process, which is so emotional and overwhelming, and it's quite a process. And so we're here to kind of assist families with all of this, and if all these issues and concerns are not detected and treated per se at a young age, they're not going to go away. Just imagine if this child that could have been identified as having needs and concerns at 1.5, 2, and could have been getting support all this time, as opposed to getting the support starting at 5 or 6, it would be a huge, huge, huge issue, and then a financial burden on the school system. There's a family that when we went in there for his initial, when the family initially contacted us, it was a bilingual family. He was probably 15 to 18 months at the time. He had no eye contact. He couldn't attend to anything. He had no interest in books. He had no interest in puzzles. Things that most typical toddlers were doing. This little guy had no interest. A lot of sensory concerns and things like that initially. He just ran back and forth. He loved just kind of running and things like that. So it was really hard to get him to attend. He had a fall birthday, so we worked all the way through his 3rd birthday. He made a lot of progress in our program. Upon 3 that fall, he went into the school district, in his local school district, into a pre-K. His first year, he did early childhood, which is more of a self-contained. All the children in the classroom have special needs. Eventually, he moved out to a blended program, which has the typically developing children and then some children with special needs. He is now in just finished a regular general education kindergarten program, English speaking. He gets no ELL, he gets no special education, and he, is typically developing at this point. So given all that support early on and then the support from the school district, he's just like any other child. A lot of people don't know what early intervention is, what it does, the effectiveness of it. People just don't know. I mean, I feel like my own family, after reading that Southtown article, they were like, "That's what you do, Meg? That's amazing." I feel like people just don't know, and so I think getting the information out about the program and the impact of the program is huge. And then on a more, a higher level, contacting legislators to encourage them to support all of our efforts, and then long-term getting our governor to support the effort and realizing the importance of the program.